All righty. Welcome, welcome. Think we have our mic working. That is a plus, a big plus. What else do we have? Should we have that going? We have this going, and I think we're good. Okay. So, hello. Welcome back. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you coming in. What's going on, Dr. Julia? Nice to see you. What's going on, everybody? Thank you. I representing the local Saratoga up here. Really appreciate it. Got to represent where you're living now. So, um, yeah, honestly, I love it. I saw it. I was out, earlier last week, and um, I had to get it. Had to get it. So today, what I want to talk about is, again, I know we're early on into the new year here. And one thing that I think is really important to always talk about is kind of like your psyche, right? Where your mentality is at. Because truth is, I saw Dr. Brad on a live this morning, and he said it perfectly. He was talking about, really the first thing that we always have to address is the mind. And if we don't get whatever we're trying to do into our mind in a positive way, it's really going to be hard to make a change that's going to affect the spirit, the body, the chemical end of things. Because if we're not in a mental headspace to make a change or to do something different or to get to that point, it's going to be really hard to make a change that lasts, long term. So that I think is always going to be step one is we have to mentally get in a place where we are ready to change, where we are ready to embark in something new, something positive, something that's going to make a difference. Now, today we're not really going to talk about that, but if that's something you're interested in talking about, let me pop this in here. Hold on. Uh, I can definitely talk more about that next week. I actually have a post ready to go to talk about that a little bit tomorrow. But and I'm just gonna put that here and I'll pin, and we can definitely go into that next week. In other words, like finding out who you are, understanding that we're not these physical bodies here. We experience a physical body, we experience thoughts, but we are not actually our thoughts. We are not actually our body. We come from a different source. We are essentially the observer in all of this. That's what we actually are. So I'm not this body. I'm not, necessarily, I'm in this body in this lifetime, but not necessarily, that's not exactly who I am. If that makes any sense. That's here nor there. But we do need to talk about during this lifetime today, how we take care of the body that we have right now, because that is important. That is important. And one of the things I think everyone knows about to some degree and either doesn't either struggles with it or doesn't necessarily put it into action as best they can is physical activity. More importantly, how to build it. Like, what does a good physical activity exercise regimen look like? Now, if you don't know, my background is actually I started as an assistant trainer in college. I played a sport in college. I actually was the assistant to the strength and conditioning coach while I was there. So I helped other athletes who were going through workouts, some of them were rehabbing from injuries. That's eventually what got me to go to chiropractic school. So as far as my journey goes, it started actually working with those kids who were rehabbing. And in one case, I was actually one of them. I had an ankle injury as a sophomore in college. So I had to rehab that too, and that kind of got me into it. And that, however many years later, we're here. So, but today I wanted to talk about, how do you build an effective exercise regimen? Now, you'll usually hear like the standard, like wherever you are, like just start walking every day. And that is good advice. But like it is great to walk every day. And if we could get more walking in, if we could get more movement in, that is a positive. Definitely do it. Like absolutely 100%. But I think what gets lost beyond that is like, what do we like? How do you structure it? Now, I used to actually put workouts together in terms of like the specifics of exercises. Not necessarily going to go into that today because as I've kind of gotten older and wiser, the specifics don't necessarily matter as much as the intention and are you covering all your bases? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, like we have to talk a little bit about kind of like how we got to where we are. Now, there are plenty of benefits to physical activity. Now, weight loss is going to be the big one, but honestly, nutrition has a lot more to do with weight loss specifically than physical activity on its own. But it could be things like increasing your energy levels, putting you in a happier frame of mind, increases your focus, gives you a more positive attitude, makes you stronger, improves blood sugar levels, improves detoxification pathways via sweat, boost memory and thinking skills, will actually stave off and mitigate the chances of things like Alzheimer's disease, like MS, all that stuff, because you have to realize like what gets the brain working is actually physical movement. So if we're not physically moving, that brain is going to start to shrink. Those synapses are not going to kick because we're not having them fire off. So really important. Now, I'm sure you might have heard today that sitting is the new smoking, and to a very large degree, like it is a huge problem.